Hi everyone. This is What If Fan. This is one of the new 4 ongoing fanfics that will be updated regularly. Today's story is, What If Luffy Became a Marine? You can find the fanfic name and author in the description below. Please make sure to support the original author. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Alright, let's get started. Chapter 1, To Protect Everything. Shanks. Take me out to sea with you. All the men in the bar laughed at the little boy's exclamation. You're still too young and weak, Luffy. The red-haired man laughed as he slapped his knee. Maybe ask me again in 10 years or so. I'm not young and weak. The boy shouted back, face beginning to turn red. I want to be a pirate like you. At this statement, the laughter in the bar got louder than before. Stop laughing at me. I'm serious. I bet I can beat you, Shanks. Oh? Shanks turned to him on his swivel chair with a big grin on his face. Try me. Luffy lunged towards Shanks only to meet a face full of Shanks' outstretched foot, pushing him back onto the floor with a loud thud. The whole bar exploded into laughter again. Da ha ha ha. Train some more, Luffy, and maybe you can match up to me. Shanks roared in laughter. Luffy rubbed his nose with tears in his eyes, sniffling at his failed attempt to prove his strength to the pirate captain. He jumped back on his feet and pointed a finger at Shanks with his chest puffed out in indignation. I will. And when I become stronger than you, you're going to regret not inviting me to your crew. Da ha 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 ha. I'll be waiting for that day, Luffy. Shanks burst out laughing again. The sudden loud bang of the bar's door being kicked open immediately silenced the bar as everyone turned to look at the newcomers. A tall, thin man walked in with an ugly smirk on his face, carefully regarding the seated pirates in the bar. On his right hip hung a menacing saber that his right hand rested on lazily. Arara? So these are pirates? They don't seem like much to me. He spat as he walked into the bar with his men, not even sparing a glance at the seated pirates. He approached the bar where the bar owner, Makino, was standing, slamming a palm on the countertop. I'm not looking for trouble, just give us 10 barrels of sake and we'll be on our way. Makino held her hands up in front of her in a placating gesture. I'm really sorry, but we're all out of sake now. The man huffed and turned to the seated pirates, squinting his eyes at them as though regarding them for the first time. All taken by these bunch of useless pirates, huh? I'm really sorry about that. Shanks turned to the man, his hand holding up a bottle of wine. Here, this bottle is still new, you can have it as an apology from us. The thin man swiped his right hand in an arc, smashing the bottle into Shanks. The whole bar held its breath as the broken pieces of glass clattered onto the floor. Don't make me laugh, pirate, the man spat, pulling out a wanted poster from within his cloak. I'm a wanted bandit in this town worth 8 million berries, a bottle of wine won't be enough for me. Shanks, however, was looking at the spilled wine on the ground, not paying attention to the bandit. Ah, now the floor is wet. He crouched down on the floor and began picking pieces of the glass with his hands. Hey, Makino, you have a mop? Ah. It's alright, I'll do it. Makino waved frantically to Shanks. The bandit spat at Shanks one more time before taking out his sword to slash at the bar, sending the plates and bottles crashing onto the floor. You like to clean so much, you can clean all this up as well. The bandit turned his back and sheathed his sword, heading out to the door. Come on guys, let's find somewhere else to go, forget about these chickens. The whole bar was silent as the bandits exited the bar. Shanks let out a breath and all the pirates started laughing. That sure got you, Captain. Da ha ha ha, yep, they sure did. Shanks scratched his head in embarrassment. Why are all of you laughing? Luffy screamed at them. You should have fought back. What kind of pirates are you to let them walk all over you? Luffy, Shanks waved his hand in an attempt to placate the boy. It's alright, it's really no big deal. Really? You talked to me about being strong and everything. And yet you seem so weak. I don't want to see you anymore. Luffy ran out of the bar, tears streaming past his cheeks. Luffy! Wait! Makino called out to the boy, but he already ran out of the bar. Just let him go, Makino. He's still too young for all this. Shanks sighed. It was a few days later before Makino barged into the mayor's house. Mayor! Luffy's in big trouble. What? What did he do this time? The mayor sighed in exasperation. Near the docks. Get your foot off of me, you filthy bandit! Luffy screamed, trying without avail to push the bandit's foot off him. That's what you get for insulting us, you little twerp. Don't think just because you're a kid I'll let you get away with what you do. The bandit leader spat at the ground near Luffy. Wait. Please. The mayor ran towards the bandits and knelt on the ground. I don't know what Luffy did, but please spare him. He's just a kid. We're willing to pay. Huh, the bandit turned to regard the kneeling mayor. Too late, old man, this kid managed to piss me off too much. He slowly unsheathed his sword, bringing it down near Luffy in a slow arc, and I won't be satisfied until I kill this kid. Hey you, a voice called out from behind the bandits. Shanks stood impassively with his crew, staring down the bandits. That's my friend you got your foot on over there, mind if you let him go? The bandits laughed, and here's the little pirate captain. Had fun cleaning up the town? Why don't you run along now before you get hurt again? Shanks remained motionless as he stared down the bandit. TCH, who do you think you are, telling us what to do? A bandit walked haughtily towards Shanks, his pistol drawn. He stopped within a few steps of him and pointed the pistol towards Shanks's head. Our boss told you to back off. I warned you guys, do as you wish then. Shanks closed his eyes and sighed. The bandit didn't even have time to ask what Shanks was talking about before Lucky Roo shot the bandit in the head, all the while still munching on a piece of meat. The bandit hit the floor with a soft thump as the other bandits watched with open-mouthed shock. You bastards! The bandit leader gritted his teeth, still not letting Luffy go. Get them guys! The bandits yelled and charged the pirates in unison. Beckman stepped out beside his captain, rifle in hand. Let me take care of these punks. Within a blink of an eye, the charging group of bandits were on the ground, unconscious. The bandit leader widened his eyes in fear as the pirates advanced on him. I don't care what you do to me, bandit. Shanks stepped closer to the bandit. You can spit on me, laugh at me, and even ridicule me. But if you hurt my friends, I'll make you pay. TCH, don't mess with me. The bandit screamed as he flung a smoke bomb at his feet, dragging Luffy with him as he made his escape. Luffy! Shanks shouted as the smoke dispersed, revealing an empty street. Damn it! We got careless. Luffy! Calm down, boss. Beckman held his captain's shoulder reassuringly. Let's spread out to find him. On a boat near the town. Ha! Ha! They'll never think a mountain bandit will escape to the sea. Ha ha ha! The bandit leader laughed maniacally. Shut up, you stupid bandit. I'll kick your butt. Luffy lunged at the bandit before being backhanded back onto the boat. Shut it, you brat. You're just a stupid kid. I'll kill you right here. The bandit took out his pistol and pointed it at Luffy, who stared back at him with wide, fearful eyes. The bandit smirked at him as he cocked his pistol, until he realized Luffy was staring at something behind him, not at him. The bandit turned as the Lord of the Coast rose out of the water and regarded the bandit with a single unblinking eye. The bandit panicked and shot the pistol at the monster, which spurred Luffy to jump out of the boat and began frantically paddling his way back to shore despite his inability to swim. The pistol bullet ricocheted harmlessly off the monster's hide and the bandit couldn't do anything as he met his end in the monster's jaws. Meanwhile, Luffy was having trouble staying afloat while paddling for his life at the same time. The monster regarded the panicking Luffy and somehow decided that he was an insult to him and began swimming towards Luffy, jaws wide open. As Luffy screamed at the impending horror, Shanks leapt out in front of him and dragged him away from the snapping of the monster's jaws. Scram! Shanks yelled and the monster retreated obediently. Shanks! Luffy cried, holding on to Shanks tightly. Hey now, Luffy, I thought you were a grown man, you shouldn't be crying like this. Shanks. No. Your arm. Luffy cried harder, snot dribbling past his nose. Shanks paid no mind as he brought Luffy to shore. It's only an arm, kid. Nothing to cry about. It's all my fault. Luffy cried, tightening his grip on Shanks. It's not your fault, Luffy. Things like this happens all the time with criminals like that bandit. If you want to prevent things like this from happening, you just need to be stronger than them. Luffy nodded silently, still sniffling. So you're really leaving? Luffy asked, tears threatening to spill out anytime soon. Yeah, we stayed here for far too long, it's time for us to move on. Shanks knelt down in front of the boy, ruffling his hair. As he turned to leave, Luffy gathered up his courage and shouted, I'm going to be an admiral when I grow up. And I'll arrest all those criminals like that bandit. Shanks turned back to him, smiling, what, not planning to be a pirate anymore? Luffy shook his head, I want to protect everyone, and becoming a marine would let me do that. I'll become a great marine and capture any criminal that threatened the innocent. Shanks smiled at the boy's resolution, what about us? We're pirates, we're technically criminals. Luffy tilted his head in honest confusion, well, you guys are good guys. So you're not criminals to me. The crew laughed at Luffy's honest naivety, only to incite a stop laughing at me, from Luffy. Shanks took off his hat and placed it on the boy's head, in that case, I'll leave my treasured hat in your care, Luffy. So follow your dreams and give that back to me when you're finally an admiral. Luffy beamed at him, punching his hands in the air in a victory pose, yeah. Just watch me, Shanks. I'm going to be the best marine ever. Chapter 2, Setting Off Once Again. 10 years later. Alright, Luffy. Here we are. Now get your ass off my ship. Garp yelled. He turned around to see Luffy fast asleep by the side of the deck, a piece of meat hanging in his hands. His straw hat sitting lopsidedly, which seems out of place compared to the rest of his smart marine attire. A white collared shirt with the marine emblem on the left chest was worn loosely with all buttons unbuttoned, revealing Luffy's chest openly. Blue cargo pants stretched downwards where it ended, folded into itself just above his knee area, and a large white cloak was draped loosely on his shoulders. The cloak itself comes complete with red and gold epaulets on its shoulders and the word justice emblazoned smartly in kanji at the back. A tick appeared on the side of Garp's head as he stormed towards Luffy. Wake up, Captain Monkey D, Luffy. A fist landed on Luffy's head, smashing him into the deck of the ship. Luffy jumped up on his feet, rubbing his head in pain. What was that for, Gramps? Garp placed both his hands on his hips and snorted, what are you doing sleeping, Luffy? We're finally here. Garp stepped aside and gestured to Luffy's hometown. Luffy ran towards the prow of the marine battleship, glancing down excitedly at Fusha village. Garp smiled proudly at his grandson. After going through the hellish training he had put him through without much complaints, Luffy had become a splendid marine officer. With Sabo's apparent death and Ace's departure, Luffy was more than willing to subject himself to various forms of training in order to become stronger. The first year was spent under Garp himself with an inhuman training plan. Then it was a 1-year attachment to the CP9 headquarters before finally spending the last year as an apprentice under the Marine Admirals Akiji and Kizaru. Luffy was finally ready to set out on his own. Luffy turned around to see his grandfather beaming proudly at him. He smirked at this and saluted to the old-timer smartly. Garp's smile broadens, never thinking he would see this day. Sure, he had hoped Ace would join the Marines too, but he shrugged that he can never get everything he wanted in life. Thanks for the ride, Vice Admiral Garp. I shall begin my mission here. Luffy turned and prepared to jump away from the ship. Oh, Luffy. Before I forget. Garp reached out his hand that was holding on to a piece of paper. I managed to get the higher-ups to comply with your unusual requests. Both grandson and grandfather grinned at this. Garp cleared his throat as he brought the piece of paper in front of him. Your request for the authority to seek out and assemble your own marine team was granted. Your group will be known as a separate marine entity operating directly under Vice Admiral Garp's command as the Straw Hat Marines, receiving orders only from him and his associates. Luffy listened intently as Garp stole a wink at him. Your group would not require to respond to any dispatch calls unless directly ordered to and would remain autonomous while in service. You are also granted permission to arrest any criminals and claim their bounties for your personal expenses, but you will not be allowed to requisition for monetary supplies from any marine base outside of essential living supplies. You are also granted the authority to arrest and detain any Marines that have performed any criminal activities. Garp frowned a little at this, realizing that the headquarters was essentially making Luffy a bounty hunter. Luffy did not seem to mind this in the slightest, though, seeing it as another way to attest his strength to headquarters. As for your first mission, you are required to patrol around the East Blue area and root out any criminal activity in the region. Report back any notable activities directly back to headquarters, and your station shall continue to remain in said location until told otherwise. Signed, Fleet Admiral Sengoku. Garp folded the paper neatly and handed it to Luffy, who deposited it into one of his pants pockets. Thanks, Grandpa, you're the best. Luffy gave a thumbs up. Wahahaha. Make me proud, Luffy. Garp was grinning widely. Go show me the results of your training. I've asked the mayor to prepare a boat for you, so go kick some ass. Shishishi. See ya, Gramps. Luffy turned towards the town and leaped into the air. Jeppo. With a single step, Luffy managed to land on the shore of the town before turning around and giving one final wave to the departing ship. When the battleship is only a small speck in the horizon, Luffy was ready to leave in his small boat with most of the town to see him off. I'm off, everyone. Luffy waved at the villagers. I'm going to become an admiral. The villagers cheered as Luffy slowly drifted away when suddenly, water exploded behind the departing marine. The Lord of the Coast growled menacingly at the small boat as Luffy turned to regard it. Shishishi, I almost forgot about you, boy. I'm not the same weakling as before. Luffy grinned. The Sea King roared and lunged towards Luffy, jaws wide open. Luffy smirked as he dropped into his battle stance, feet apart. Rankyaku. Luffy kicked his foot in an arc, sending a compressed blade of air towards the Sea King, slicing his head cleanly off. The villagers cheered as Luffy turned to wave at them again. He's going to achieve great things, the mayor sighed contentedly. We're going to miss him, Makino agreed beside him, still waving. A few hours later. Phew, that was a close one. If I wasn't paying attention, that whirlpool would have been the end of me. Luffy laughed. Hearing shouting ahead, Luffy turned and spied land with a small ship anchored next to it. All right. There seems to be some people there. Luffy stood on the prow of his small boat, arms crossed and his coat waving behind him with the wind. My first mission, I can't screw this up if I want to be an admiral. Shishishi. Meanwhile, on the island, a small pink-haired boy with round-framed glasses was leaving from locking up a storage shed near the beach. Hey, Koby. Koby turned to see three pirates bearing down at him. You have the key to the storage room, right? A pirate stepped closer, making Koby shrink back. Air. Yes? Why do you need it? Koby was shivering in fear, trying to hide behind his hands that were raised in fear. Give it to us, we have some inspection to do. One of them smiled. If Captain Alvita finds out. Koby tried, only for one of them to smack him across the head, sending him sprawling onto the floor. Shut up. If you don't say anything, she won't know, right? The three pirates began laughing. Now shut up and give us the key, you stupid boy. The three began advancing on him. Hey guys. A sudden voice startled the four of them. Turning around, they saw a foolishly grinning boy wearing a straw hat waving at them while walking towards them. The three pirates immediately drew out their swords and pointed it towards the advancing boy. Who are you? Where did you come from? What are you doing here? All three pirates questioned him at the same time, waving their weapons at him menacingly. Luffy frowned at this and disappeared, reappearing behind them with their weapons in hand. It's dangerous to point these at people, you know. Luffy dropped the swords on the ground beside him. While the pirates are still recovering from the shock of losing their weapons so easily, Koby pointed a shaky finger at Luffy. You're a Marine. This shook the three pirates out of their stupor as they immediately turned and ran from them, shouting, Marines are here. Hey, you know what's gotten into them? Luffy asked, pointing at the escaping pirates. Koby clung onto Luffy's cloak, tears streaming past his cheeks. Sir, you have to help me. My name is Koby and I was kidnapped by these pirates and was forced to serve under them for the past 2 years in order to survive. Wow, you actually stayed with them for the whole 2 years? Luffy was taken aback. Koby nodded dumbly, still sniffling. I mean, if you don't like this place so much, why haven't you left yet? Luffy looked questioningly at Koby. Koby fell back on his hunches at these words. Impossible, impossible, impossible. If I had tried to leave, they would have killed me. Luffy laughed at this, placing his hands on his hips, mimicking his grandpa. Well, if you're so afraid of them, all you have to do is get stronger, then beat them. Koby was furiously shaking his head this time. No. 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 Definitely impossible. I can never do it. I'm just a weak. Koby's words were cut off as Luffy's fist landed abruptly on his head. Koby screamed in pain, clutching at his head. Why did you hit me? Never say that anything is impossible, Koby. If you're strong, anything is possible. Luffy held out his hand to pull Koby up. Tell me, Koby, do you have something you want to do? Luffy grinned. Something I want to do? Yeah, like my dream is to become a Marine Admiral one day. Luffy beamed proudly. Wow. An admiral. Koby looked down at his feet. To have such a dream, the boy in front of him must be strong. Unlike himself, who always cowered and hid himself whenever something threatened him. His own dream of joining the Marines paled in comparison to the boy standing in front of him. I can never be like him. Koby thought sadly. Luffy, seeing his depression, smacked him on the head again, gaining another cry of pain from Koby. Listen, Koby, anyone can become strong as long as they have the will, just don't ever give up. Pursue your dreams. Luffy punched into the air victoriously, smiling up at the sky. Shout out your dreams for the world to hear. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. Koby, emboldened by Luffy's energy, turned towards the sea and shouted out his dream. I'm going to be a Marine. Luffy looked at the boy, grinning. A Marine, huh? Yeah. I'm going to become a great Marine and catch tons of bad guys like Alvida. Koby shouted proudly. Who are you going to catch, Koby? A menacing voice said behind them. Both boys turned to see Alvida and her crew glaring at them with their weapons drawn. Alvida swung her giant mace menacingly before propping it up on her shoulder. Luffy could swear she heard her growl at them. Air. Koby stuttered, his earlier courage gone. Hey Koby, who's the fatty? Luffy pointed at Alvida nonchalantly. Everyone's jaw dropped at his statement and Koby began to panic. You can't say that, sir. Koby waved his hands at the Marine in a panic. Luffy tilted his head, confused. Why not? Because Alvida is. Koby peeked at the fuming Alvida, then back at the grinning face of the Marine officer. Because I'm what, Koby? Alvida sneered, swinging her mace around her bulbous body. Koby took one more glance at the Marine, before breathing in and shouted, because she's the ugliest and fattest pirate I've ever seen. Koby announced with tears in his eyes. Everyone on Alvida's crew wrung their hands in the air in a panic as Alvida's face reddened with anger. Shishi. Well said, Koby. Luffy laughed. Alvida charged towards Koby, swinging her mace at him, but Luffy stepped in between them, raising an arm to block the incoming blow. Tekai. Luffy took the full blow of the mace without flinching, rebounding the mace away from him. Everyone's jaw dropped at this inhuman feat. So I take it that you are Captain Alvida, right? With a current bounty of 5 million? Luffy snickered, lowering his arm. Alvida squinted her eyes at the boy. Who are you? Captain Monkey D. Luffy of the Marines, and I'm here to arrest you under the name of justice. Luffy grinned. Like I'll let you. Die, stupid Marine. Alvida charged towards Luffy, her mace raised in the air. Luffy smirked as he stood, unmoving in the face on Alvida's wild swinging. When her mace was about to hit him from above, he nimbly stepped to the right before stepping forward to deliver a single punch into her abdomen. Alvida's grip on her mace loosened, letting it crash onto the floor as her eyes rolled back to her head. As Luffy retracted his hand, she slumped onto the ground without resistance, already unconscious. Luffy turned to the other pirates, grinning at the wide-eyed, open-mouthed crew. Anyone else? All the pirates immediately shook their head in fear. Koby, help me find some rope and tie her up. Koby rushed off to do as he was asked. The rest of you, well, you guys don't really have any bounties, so scram. All of Alvida's crew immediately took to their heels. Luffy whipped out a baby Den Den Mushy, reporting in, "This is Captain Monkey D. Luffy. HQ, do you receive? Receiving you loud and clear, Captain, go ahead. I have Pirate Captain Alvida in my custody, sending you the coordinates to her current location. Over." Luffy grinned as Koby finished tying the still unconscious Alvida to a nearby tree. Understood, Captain, a ship will be dispatched to pick her up, good work. Marine base out. Luffy returned the snail back to his cloak and turned to Koby. Koby, do you still want to be a Marine? Koby stared back with all the determination he could. Yes, sir. Shi. Alright then. There should be a Marine base nearby, I'll sign you up with them. Luffy grinned. Koby broke out in a wide smile and rushed to grasp Luffy's hands, thanking him profusely while shaking his hands. Onward to Shell's Town. Luffy grinned, with Koby laughing alongside him. Chapter 3, The New Mate. The small boat carrying two bobbed along steadily as the wind blew behind it. So how did you become so strong, Luffy? Koby asked, keeping his hand on the boat's rudder. Luffy grinned, sitting at the prow of the boat with his marine coat on his shoulders. I trained with the best, of course. Even though the training was hard, I never once thought of giving up. I have to become an admiral one day, after all. Wow! Koby gasped in amazement. Do you think I can be as strong as you, Luffy? Luffy looked at the boy's wonder-filled eyes before flashing him a smile. It'll depend on you, Koby. If you have the will to do it, I'm sure you can be strong too. Wow! Oh, Luffy, why are you traveling alone? I thought a marine captain like yourself should have a crew of some sort. Koby asked, finally noticing the oddity of the situation. Luffy stood up, cloak fluttering behind him as the wind blew past. I met a pirate when I was young once. He came to my village and stayed there for a while. Oh no! Were they raiding it? Koby asked, shocked. Luffy shook his head quickly. Oh, no. They were good guys even though they were pirates. Not all pirates are bad, Koby, some are good guys. Koby scratched his head in confusion, still trying to grasp the probability of there being a good pirate. Anyway, those pirates were strong, even stronger than I am right now. The captain himself saved my life when I was about to be eaten by a sea king then, and I swore to him that I will become stronger. In order to do that, I need to form my own crew strong enough to face other strong criminals that are in the New World. Luffy beamed proudly at Koby, who looked on in admiration. I heard there's a swordsman that was recently spotted around Shell's Town. He's supposedly the best swordsman in this part of the sea, but I heard he's currently detained by the Marines. Koby's eyes widened at this. You don't mean the pirate hunter, Roronoa Zoro? Yeah. That's him. I'm going to recruit him. Luffy grinned widely. But I heard he's a demon. And he's completely ruthless when he's hunting pirates. I don't think he would suit the image of a marine. Koby protested. Shi. If you had seen the kinds of marines out there, you wouldn't be saying that. Luffy laughed, remembering people like Sakazuki. Koby was just about to claim that it was impossible before remembering what Luffy had said to him. In order to become stronger, he had to drop the impossible mentality. But how will you recruit him? He's currently a captive of the Marines. And I heard he never liked following orders. Luffy turned to face him, a big foolish grin plastered on his face. I'll find a way, shishishishishi. Shell's Town. We're finally here. Luffy exclaimed, jumping down from the boat onto the harbor as Koby moored their small boat. Hey, Koby. Let's go grab something to eat first. Then we'll head to the Marine base to sign you up. Luffy turned to the elated Koby. Stepping into a nearby restaurant, Luffy noticed that the atmosphere immediately stiffened upon his entry. Every customer turned away from him and kept their heads down, trying their best not to make eye contact with him. As their food arrived, even the waiter was shivering as he placed the food in front of them before scampering away as fast as he could. Hey Koby, what's wrong with everyone? Luffy asked, already munching away at his food tactlessly. I don't know. It seems like they're afraid of us? Koby whispered carefully. Really? Luffy started scanning the restaurant, looking at everyone who has their heads turned away from them. Hey, why are all of you so afraid? Luffy shouted to the restaurant, which immediately prompted everyone to run out of the restaurant, screaming for their lives. Maybe it's because you look scary, Koby. Luffy accused, pointing a piece of meat towards Koby. No way. However I see it, it's definitely you. Koby shouted back, exasperated. But why would they be scared of me? I'm a Marine. You're right. This doesn't make any sense. Koby pondered, wondering if it had something to do with the Marines that were currently stationed in the town. When he turned back to Luffy, he realized Luffy had helped himself to the food that all the customers had left behind. What the hell are you doing? Koby screamed with shark-like teeth. What? It's such a waste of good food. Luffy continued to munch down plates of food from the other tables as Koby shook his head in disbelief. I'm so full. Luffy exclaimed contentedly as he and Koby made their way to the Marine base. Going through the front door, they notice a reception counter by the side and a single Marine officer seated behind it, fast asleep. Luffy slammed his palm on the table, immediately waking up the Marine who started spouting that he wasn't asleep and he was awake the whole time. Upon regaining his senses, he finally noticed Luffy and Koby standing in front of him and visibly relaxed. Welcome to the 153rd Branch Marine Base. How can I help you guys? The Marine raised an eyebrow at the two youths questioningly. Luffy coughed discreetly, getting the Marine's attention before gesturing to his epaulette, which the Marine's eyes widened upon sight. I'm Captain Monkey D. Luffy, reporting in as per my orders to patrol around the East Blue. I have Koby here with me. Luffy gestured at the nervous Koby, who stood at rapt attention. He wants to sign up as a Marine. I also believe I have a bounty for collection. The Marine saluted smartly as soon as he heard of Luffy's rank. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir. Of course, sir. The Marine panicked a bit, before sorting through the papers at his desk. I have a report from the Marines that were sent to capture Alvida. Oh. Apparently she managed to escape. What? Luffy slammed the table in disbelief, cracking the wooden table and causing the Marine officer to recoil in surprise. How? Luffy demanded, the Marine already shaking in fear. They said they were transporting her to the ship. And she broke free from her bindings and knocked out the Marines around her before escaping. Oh? Luffy visibly relaxed. Is that all? Shishishishi, alright then. Luffy grinned, happy that her escape had nothing to do with him, which might have left an undesirable mark on his records. Confused by his sudden change in demeanor, the Marine continued, seeing as how you did indeed capture her but her escape was due to the negligence of the transport crew, headquarters had decided to issue you with the half equivalent of her bounty, 2.5 million berries. Thanks. I'll collect that later. Give Koby the papers he needs to fill in for his recruitment first. Luffy pushed Koby closer to the counter. Yes, sir. Sorry kid, if you could just fill these in. The Marine passed a piece of paper and pen to Koby, who began filling them out diligently. Ah, that's right. I heard a certain Roronoa Zoro is being detained here. Where is he? Luffy commented. The Marine seemed to tense up at the mention of his name but pointed at the window which showed the courtyard. Luffy glimpsed out of the window to see the mentioned swordsman tied up to a wooden post out in the hot sun, seemingly beaten and exhausted. He wore what seemed to be a white shirt that had been bloodied and dark black pants with a green sash around his waist. A black bandana rests securely around his head, his green hair barely visible sticking out at the ends. Luffy pushed open the door without hesitation and made his way to the courtyard. Koby noticed and dashed out after Luffy, leaving the half-completed papers and a confused Marine behind. Luffy, wait. Koby grabbed onto his hand. What is it? Luffy stopped in his tracks. You're really trying to recruit a criminal into your ranks? Luffy scratched his chin. I don't know what he has done, so in my books, he's still good guy. Luffy grinned. Koby face-palmed at Luffy's naivety, wondering how someone like him could be a Marine captain. A scratching sound from the courtyard attracted their attention as a little girl climbed over the wall with a ladder before running towards the tied-up swordsman. The two youths moved closer to the fence as the girl opened up a small package to reveal 2 rice balls, offering them to the exhausted swordsman. Beat it, kid, I don't need your food. Zoro sighed, looking away from the girl. I tried my best to make it. Please eat something. They already starved you for a long time already, the girl cried. I'm not hungry. Now get lost. Zoro yelled back. The gate flung open nearby as 2 Marine soldiers escorted a teen into the courtyard. The teen seemed to carry an air or arrogant authority as he wore a permanent smirk on his face. This, in turn, seemed to match his black suit and blonde hair that screamed with arrogance. They did not notice Luffy and Koby standing at the side. Hey now, Zoro. Don't be so mean to little kids, or my father might hear about this. The blonde teen smirked, idly stroking the end of his collar. Zoro rolled his eyes. If it isn't the bastard son. Hey! Watch your mouth. My father's the captain of this base. I can have you executed if I want to. The teen raged. He noticed the girl standing beside Zoro with the rice balls in her hand and quickly advanced towards them, snatching a rice ball away from her when he got close. These rice balls look tasty, don't waste it on such a useless guy like him. Ha ha. The girl tried to protest but the teen already bit into one before spitting it out again. Arg. What is this? You're supposed to use salt. Not sugar, you damn brat. He threw the rice ball on the ground and knocked the other one over as well, stamping down with his foot a few times, ignoring the pleas of the girl. The girl started crying, which only made the teen sigh in exasperation. You brought this upon yourself, you know? He gestured towards a sign nearby. Anyone caught helping a prisoner will be charged with the same crime. I'm sure you don't want that, do you? The girl shook her head quickly. The teen turned to one of the guards and pointed at the girl. Throw her out. The guard seemed shocked at this and hesitated before he was grabbed by the teen. You want to disobey me? I'll tell my father. You hear me? Aye, sir. The guard quickly took a hold of the girl and brought her to the wall, apologizing to the girl along the way before tossing her, screaming, over the wall. Luffy jumped over the wall and dashed to catch her before she fell, Koby following behind shortly after. Koby quickly helped the girl up, checking if she was alright as Luffy brushed off the dirt on his cloak. You better keep your promise, Helmeppo. Zoro spat. Of course, the teen laughed. If you can survive for this whole month, I'll definitely set you free. Helmeppo laughed as he walked away with his guards in tow. Zoro hung his head inside before noticing a shadow on the ground. He lifted up his head again to see a Marine with a straw hat staring at him. What now? He groaned. You're the best swordsman in East Blue? Luffy asked skeptically. Zoro raised an eyebrow at the unexpected question. What's it to you? You don't look like any of the Marines here. I don't see any swords on you? Luffy stared at Zoro's waist. Zoro rolled his eyes. That Helmeppo bastard took them when he arrested me. Of course, you think he'll let me keep them here? How did you end up like this? Luffy scratched his chin, amused. I don't need to tell you, get out of my face. Zoro dropped his head again. I'm looking for people to join my marine crew. I think a swordsman like you will fit right in. Well then I'm sorry, but you'll have to look elsewhere. Zoro grinned at the marine. As you can see, I'm a bit tied up at the moment. Shishi. You're funny. Alright. I've decided. You'll join my crew. Luffy laughed. Zoro's eyes widened. Hey. I never said I'll join. And besides, I'm still stuck here anyway. I can always help free you, Luffy smirked, stepping towards Zoro. Wait, no. Stop. Zoro shouted him back. I made a promise to last for a month. If I do, I'm a free man, so I don't need your help. Oh? So how about I wait for you to be released? Will you join then? Luffy grinned foolishly. Zoro sighed in exasperation. No way, I don't want to be a damn marine, I have my own dreams. Luffy's eyes sparkled at that line. Really? What is it? Luffy rushed up to Zoro and stared at him expectantly, causing the swordsman to recoil back in surprise. Damn it! You're too close. I have no reason to tell you anyway. Now get lost. Humph, spoil sport. I'll wait for you then. Luffy turned to go. Hey wait, before you go, help me get those rice balls. Zoro gestured with his chin at the muddied rice balls on the ground. You're sure? There's more dirt in it than rice now. Luffy picked one up, waving it at Zoro. I don't care, just give it to me. Luffy shrugged and complied, feeding him one of the rice balls that Zoro greedily swallowed before having a coughing fit. Hey, cough, tell the girl that the rice balls were delicious. Luffy grinned. You're a really interesting guy. I definitely want you on my crew. Luffy ran out of the base before Zoro could protest again. He really said that? The girl exclaimed, clearly elated by the news. Yep, he ate everything. Shishi. Luffy grinned. Wow. Maybe rumors are really just rumors after all. He doesn't seem to be a bad guy at all, Koby commented. The three of them were seated inside the girl's house, which happens to be a bar. At first, the girl's mother was hesitant in letting them in, seeing as they were Marines, but relented when Luffy told her that they were not part of Helmeppo's group. He isn't. The girl, Rika, insisted. He only got in trouble because he wanted to protect me. Really now? Luffy leaned closer, listening attentively. Helmeppo had this big wolf that he would always bring around town to bully people with. And when the wolf was bullying me, Brother Zoro saved me from it. He's a really good guy. I see. So this kid is abusing his father's power. As a Marine, I will not allow this to continue. Luffy clenched his fist. The door was kicked open without warning as Helmeppo strutted in with his guards. This place is still the same dump as before. He spat, not noticing the trio sitting by the side. He sat down on one of the tables, resting his legs on the table and shouting insults at the poor condition of the bar. He. That stupid swordsman, he dared to call me a bastard. I'll show him. He. I'll definitely have him executed tomorrow. Luffy stood up and turned to Helmeppo, toppling the chair he was sitting on. Didn't you promise to free him in a month? Helmeppo squinted at the youth. Huh? Who the hell are you? You're a Marine from the base, right? You still don't know I've only been joking with him all these while? Only an idiot will believe that. Something snapped in Luffy as he rushed towards Helmeppo and struck him across the face, sending him sprawling onto the floor. Luffy! Koby pulled Luffy back in a panic. What are you doing? He's still a Marine. Please calm down. Koby, the Marines is not a place where people can abuse their authority. Luffy glared at Helmeppo. I'm taking Zoro away with me today. Helmeppo held his face where Luffy had punched him as his guards tried to help him up. Who the hell do you think you are? Even my dad has never hit me before. Luffy rolled up his sleeves, then I'll do it in his stead. My father's the captain of this town, you stupid no-name marine. He won't let you go with this. Helmeppo pointed an accusing finger at Luffy as he got to his feet. Guards! Get him! Helmeppo ordered, but the two marines stayed still, looking between Helmeppo and Luffy, unsure of themselves. Luffy snorted, arrogant and ignorant. You! Luffy pointed at one of the guards whom stiffened at attention. Go get Zoro's swords and hand it to him, untie him from his post as well. The guard hesitated and noticed at Helmeppo glaring at him. Now! Luffy ordered and the guard immediately scampered off to obey. Hey! Come back here! Why are you listening to this guy and not me? Helmeppo demanded. And you, Luffy pointed at the other marine, who also immediately stiffened. Drag him back to his dad and tell him I want a word with him. The marine was sweating profusely as he immediately hauled a screaming Helmeppo over his shoulder and made a dash for it. Let's go, Koby, time to free my first crew member, Luffy grinned. I am the greatest, a marine said proudly to himself as he stood on top of the marine base. In front of him, a group of marines were struggling to raise up a statue that resembled said marine. He had a metal plate as a jaw and his right hand was replaced with a crude-looking axe. A marine coat that had its sleeves torn off rested on his shoulders, revealing his large beefy arms. Father! Sir! Helmeppo and the marine carrying him cried out at the same time as they barged in onto the roof. The marine captain turned to regard the two with critical eyes. Dad! I want you to kill someone for me. There's someone in town that actually hit me. And my guards actually betrayed me. Helmeppo clutched onto his father's cloak, wailing. Captain Morgan, sir. There's another marine captain that has asked for your presence. The other marines turned at this, their eyes filled with mild traces of hope. What? What does he want? Morgan advanced on the marine. I don't know, sir. He only told me to tell you that. The marine shrunk smaller and smaller as the captain got closer and closer. Father! Why don't you care about me? He hit me. You need to take revenge for me. Helmeppo cried louder, pulling at Morgan's cloak. Morgan turned around to regard the blonde teen with contempt. Do you know why I never hit you before? Because I'm your wonderful son? Helmeppo tried. No. Morgan advanced on Helmeppo. Without warning, his left fist flung forward and punched Helmeppo away. Because you're a bastard son that's not even worth hitting. Tears streamed down Helmeppo's face as Morgan picked him up by his collar. Don't misunderstand here, I am the one that is great here, not you. He dropped Helmeppo back onto the floor before turning back to the marine. And you? Did you get rid of that captain? The marine seemed to be taken aback at this, before shaking his head. Then you're a traitor, don't you know there can only be one captain here? And that will only be me. Any other captains that comes here are a threat to my rule and needs to die. As the captain advanced on the marine as he swung his axe by his side. The marine was shivering in fear but dared not move from his spot. Captain! There's someone untying our captive. A marine shouted. Morgan turned around and walked to the edge of the roof, leaving the marine that just escaped death collapsing onto the floor in relief. Morgan watched as a marine was untying the binds on Zoro, his 3 swords laid down on the ground beside him. I'm surrounded by traitors. Men! Get down there and stop them! Morgan yelled, his face red with anger. Zoro looked questioningly at the marine that was busy untying his bindings. The marine had rushed out of the base carrying his swords and immediately begun untying his bindings with fervor. What are you doing? Zoro demanded. You're going to get into trouble for this. I know. The marine cried, still trying to untie the ropes as sweat poured down his face in fear. Then why? I only need to last till the end of the month to be free. Zoro asked, as his left arm came free. You were never going to be freed. The Marine cried. You were planned to be executed tomorrow. There's another Marine captain here and he ordered your release once he found out about it. Honestly, no one here likes Morgan, but we are forced to obey only because he's our superior. If someone else with authority comes here and tells me to go against him, I'd gladly do so. Despite his bravado, Zoro could tell the man was shaking in fear, knowing that his life was probably forfeit. A shadow loomed over the both of them as Zoro looked up just in time to see the falling of Morgan's axe. Zoro clenched his teeth as he kicked up one of his swords with his left foot and drew it in one fluid motion, parrying the descending blow of the giant axe with his only free hand. Impressive, you're not the best swordsman of East Blue for show, Morgan grunted. He glimpsed at the cowering Marine, who had already collapsed onto the floor in fear. As for you, little traitor, I think the death sentence should suit you properly. Morgan raised his axe to strike again, but Zoro stepped in between the two, all three of his swords drawn, catching the downward swing of the axe in between the two swords in his hands. Morgan raised an eyebrow. Why would you defend the ones who tied you up in the first place? This has nothing to do with that, Zoro sneered, pushing the axe away and causing Morgan to stumble back a few steps. Have it your way, fool. Men. Morgan turned to call out the squad of Marines that had their rifles held ready. Zoro cursed as he stood between the rifles and the still sprawled Marine behind him. I can't die here. Not before I've fulfilled my dream. Fur. Hold your fire, a commanding voice boomed. Everyone turned to regard the enraged Marine captain that stood at the gates. The air around him was pulsating in waves and the wire gates were creaking under the immense pressure the teen was giving out. Koby hid behind as Luffy started walking towards the group, fists clenched and eyes burning with rage. All of you. Lower your weapons. The world seemed to shake with each word. The Marines immediately lowered their rifles without hesitation, feeling an immense pressure wash over them. Morgan could feel his right arm shaking from the pulsating waves of haki that Luffy was exuding. Who are you? Morgan demanded, his face clenched in anger. I am Captain Monkey D. Luffy. He stopped just a few feet from Morgan. Captain Morgan, with my authority, I hereby strip you of your rank and position. You are no longer a Marine. Luffy's voice was deceivingly calm as the rage in his eyes were clear for all to see. You brat! What right do you have to do that? Morgan demanded with unrestrained fury. Luffy unfurled a paper from within his coat, showing everyone in the vicinity the official paper that he held. I am charged with the mission and authority to root out and deal with any criminal activity in this vicinity. Luffy glared pointedly at Morgan, lowering his head so that his straw hat obscured a part of his eyes. I have decided that your oppression of this town was deemed worthy as a crime. Give yourself up, Captain Morgan. You insolent brat. Morgan charged towards Luffy without warning, his axe raised in the air to strike him down. Luffy calmly placed the folded paper back into his coat before vanishing and reappearing directly in front of Morgan. Grabbing onto Morgan's left shoulder with his right hand, Luffy brought his knee smashing up into Morgan's chin, cracking the metal plate and sending him flying backwards. The former captain collapsed onto the floor, the whites of his eyes showing. Luffy landed and brushed the dust off his knee, barely a scratch. Zoro stared at Luffy in wonder. How had such a carefree and foolish boy have so much power? Who's next in command? Luffy demanded. A single Marine stepped out immediately before saluting smartly. Commander Ripper reporting, sir. Luffy looked at the man up and down before grinning, all tension disappearing from him. Good, good. I'm placing you in charge of this base. And have someone contact HQ for me to report about this. Luffy pointed down at the prone Morgan. While you're at it, get rid of that disgusting statue too. Luffy stuck his tongue out in disgust at the statue at the rook of the base. Aye, sir. Ripper saluted again with a grin before ordering a few people to carry Morgan back to the base to be detained. Oh, one more thing, Luffy grinned widely, pointing at Koby who still stood by the gate. That's a new recruit I picked up for you, be sure to sign him up for me. Ripper looked back at the boy and nodded immediately. Zoro stepped in beside him, his sword sheathed. So Zoro, ready to join my crew? Luffy smirked. Zoro sighed, I told you I have a dream before, didn't I? Luffy's eyes sparkled at this, grasping Zoro by the shoulders firmly. Tell me? Please? 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 Geez. I get it. Zoro pushed Luffy off. I want to be the strongest swordsman in the world. That's my dream, and in order to do that, I need to defeat the one that currently holds that title. Dracul my hawk. I don't suppose you can help me achieve that, can you? Oh, you mean hockey? Luffy tilted his head. Hockey? Zoro cringed at the name. Yeah, I hung out with him a couple of times when my Gramps was training me. He was kinda cool. I liked his hat. Shishishishi. Luffy grinned. Zoro was left speechless at this. Even if he was a Marine, not everyone gets to meet any of the 7 warlords whenever they wanted to. If you want, I might be able to arrange a meeting between you two. But you must agree to join my crew first. Luffy grinned. You. Arg. Fine. I'll do it. But don't you dare stand in the way of my ambition. Or I'll make sure you die by my sword. Zoro threw up his hands in exasperation. Shishishishi. Wouldn't dream of it. After all, an admiral's crew should only have the best. Luffy laughed. An admiral, eh? So that's your goal? Zoro smiled. Luffy nodded and grinned foolishly. Captain Luffy. Sir. A Marine ran up to them. In his hands was a baby Den Den mushie. HQ requested for you. Luffy's demeanor turned serious as he picked up the Den Den mushie. This is Captain Monkey D. Luffy speaking. Go ahead, headquarters. Captain Luffy, good work on handling Captain Morgan. We've dispatched a ship to pick him up. Thank you. Is there anything else? Yes, a distress call has been received from Orange Town. Apparently some pirates have been spotted in the vicinity. You're not obligated to respond to it, but you're the closest one to the town right now. I understand. I'll head there right away. Luffy nodded. Thank you, HQ out. Luffy passed the Den Den mushie back and turned to Zoro. You ready? As I'll ever be, Captain. Zoro grinned, already liking his new captain. Straw Hat Marines, mobilize. Chapter 4, A Thief Among Us. Zoro tugged at the marine jacket that he wore. It was a long-sleeve zip jacket that he left open at the front to reveal a white undershirt that had the word Marines emblazoned across the chest. The Marine insignia was also on clear display at the back of the jacket. Luffy sat at the prow of the boat, sea chart in one hand and a compass in another, his prominent Marine coat resting on his shoulders. A pencil wagged up and down between his teeth as Luffy tried to plot a course. So how's the route, Captain? Zoro asked, one hand held firmly on the rudder to ensure they stayed on course. Luffy sighed as he took out the pencil from his mouth and drew a small circle around the map, some ways away from a plot of land and a black dot that marked Orange Town. Honestly, I know crap about navigating. Everyone was too focused on making me physically stronger and told me to leave these kinds of things to my crew. Luffy sighed again. I can only tell that we're around this area. Luffy pointed to the circle he drew. At best, we're 4 to 5 hours away, at worst, probably another day. Zoro rolled his eyes. How are you expecting to survive in the sea if you can't even navigate? Luffy stuck out his tongue. My orders were to patrol the sea, not to investigate specific islands. So I thought I would just let myself drift from place to place, hee hee. Zoro facepalmed. Remind me why I agreed to join you again? Luffy just laughed it off. How's our food supply? Luffy asked, mouth already watering while reaching for the barrels beside Zoro. Zoro held his hand up to Luffy's face and pushed him back. Hold it. You already ate enough for 3 people just barely 2 hours ago. At this rate we won't have enough to last the day. Stingy. Luffy pouted, rubbing his nose. Hey, do you think that kid will be alright? Zoro sighed, making sure Luffy wasn't going to make a lunge for their already dwindling food supply. He'll be fine, Luffy waved his hand nonchalantly. He's a good kid, he'll definitely be a good Marine. Zoro shrugged. After they locked up Morgan, the whole town was thrown into celebration. Commander Ripper had personally oversaw Koby's enlistment as well as Helmeppo's at Koby's insistence, claiming that it would serve as a good enough punishment for his previous attitude. Though the town was rather disappointed that their saviors were not staying for the celebration, the Marine base immediately provided rations and Luffy's claimed bounty to be stowed away on their boat. With theoretically enough food to last for 10 days and 2.5 million berries richer, the two-man Marine team set off for Orange Town. Zoro quickly found out that the initial estimation of 10 days' worth of food was only 4 days' worth if you had to feed Luffy. To Luffy's annoyance, Zoro made himself the unofficial guard for the barrel of provisions and smacked his captain whenever he tried to take any extra food from him. Luffy's ears pricked up as he heard 3 voices with his observation haki. The inhuman training that Garp had put him through had taught him to maintain his haki at all times with minimal effort. He turned to the direction of the voice, spotting 3 small specks in the horizon trying their best to keep themselves afloat. Zoro! Take the oars! There's 3 guys drowning over there! Luffy yelled, pointing in the direction. What? I don't see anything? Zoro squinted his eyes. Just do it! Luffy ordered, prompting Zoro to immediately make a grab for the oars and row as hard as he could. The screaming could finally be heard a few moments later as the 3 men made a beeline for the approaching boat, begging them to let them on. Zoro stopped his rowing and helped haul the 3 soaked sailors on board, grunting as he did so. Hey! Thanks for saving us! One of them cried, wringing his shirt dry. Yeah, you guys are lifesavers. A second one chimed in, emptying water out from his shoe. Now hand over your boat. The third pulled out a knife which spurred the other 2 to do the same. Zoro's and Luffy's eyebrows twitched. The 3 introduced themselves as members of the Buggy Pirates and apologized profusely on their knees. All 3 of them had welts and bruises on their face and their hands bound together as 2 of them are now rowing as hard as they could with their hands bound. Please accept our humblest apologies. We didn't know it was the pirate hunter Roronoa Zoro. Nor did we expect to meet such an esteemed figure like a Marine captain out here in these parts. The last pirate had his hands held together in a prayer gesture as he repeatedly bowed his head towards the 2 seated, fuming figures. What the hell happened to you guys? Zoro sighed. Oh. It was so horrible, Zoro-sama. A girl tricked us. She pretended to be in need of help in her little boat. Then she lured us onto her boat before stealing ours and took all our treasure with it. What made it worse was the sudden storm hit us and sunk the boat with us. It was like she planned the whole thing. It was really horrible. Zoro-sama. Luffy and Zoro stared at the 3 incredulously, wondering how they managed to synchronize their explanation with one another, then whether the girl could actually predict the storm to happen at that time. Both of them shaking their heads in disbelief. How far away are we from Orange Town? Luffy sighed, uninterested in their constant groveling. Oh. Not far at all, Captain Luffy-sama. It's only an hour away. In fact, you can actually see it on the horizon. The pirate pointed at the speck of land in the horizon. Luffy sighed again. Listen well then, once we reach the island, I will be apprehending this, Buggy captain of yours, so if you don't want to be involved, grab a boat and leave. Understand? Oh yes, certainly, Captain Luffy-sama. In a little over an hour, their boat was securely tied to the harbor as they disembarked onto the deserted town. Luffy spots a huge pirate ship anchored nearby. A ridiculously huge circus tent was pitched below the main mast. That's Buggy's ship all right, Zoro nodded towards the ship. I once thought of going after his head, but never actually found him. Where is he? Luffy turned to the shaking pirates. We set up camp at the top of the bar over there. The pirate pointed a finger at the barely visible circus top jutting out among the town buildings. Can we go now? The pirates looked ready to piss their pants. Zoro glanced at Luffy, who gave him a nod. He unsheathed his blade and before the pirates could flinch, swiftly brought his blade down in 3 consecutive strikes, severing the ropes around their wrists. Not waiting for another second, the 3 pirates took to their heels, screaming. Zoro sheathed his blade and entered the ghost town alongside Luffy.
Before they could take 10 steps in, a ray of light flashed through the town, spewing dust and debris in all directions.
What? Both men gasped, watching as the dust cleared to reveal a large portion of the town has been flattened.
The buildings looked like a giant boulder had bulldozed its way through the town in an attempt to reach the sea, flattening most of the town in the process.
What happened?
Zoro gaped, jaws slack in confusion.
I don't know. But the light came from over there.
Luffy pointed to the bar where the pirates supposedly were.
It must be their doing then. We have no time to lose if we want to protect the rest of the town. Zoro tied his bandana around his head, eyes serious. There's someone coming this way too. Luffy turned, hearing footsteps coming from an alley. Hold it! You thief!
A woman burst through the alley and ran straight into them, knocking Zoro sprawling onto the floor.
Watch it! Zoro growled, standing up and dusting off his jacket.
The woman cursed under her breath as she massaged her head, where she had hit Zoro. She was about to run again when 3 pirates ran out from the alley, swords drawn and panting.
Stop right there, you thieving cat! Don't make this harder than it has to be.
The woman clutched the paper she held in her hands closer as she backed away, noticing the other 2 standing beside her for the first time.
Hey, who are you guys?
One of the pirates pointed a sword at Zoro.
Hey! These guys are Marines.
Another gasped, spotting the Marine insignia both of them wore.
The girl recollected her thoughts before giving the 2 Marines a grin. Hey, thanks boss, I'll leave these guys to you. She took to her heels before anyone else to react. No way. She's a Marine? That explains everything.
We'll finish up these guys here then gut her later.
All 3 pirates snarled, advancing on the 2 stationary Marines.
Allow me, Captain. Zoro unsheathed his swords.
Onigiri.
Zoro slashed through the 3 pirates, who immediately collapsed on the floor, each one bearing a single slash mark.
Zoro swiped his blade to clean of the blood before sheathing each of his blades. Wow, you guys took them down easily. Both men looked up to spot the girl from before sitting at the edge of the roof. Are you guys Marines? Who are you and what are you doing here? Luffy demanded, clearly unhappy with the stunt she pulled on them. The girl hopped off the roof to land in front of him, waving her hands in a placating gesture. Sorry. It was just that those pirates have been chasing me for quite a while and I panicked.
She stretched out her hand to Luffy. My name is Nami.
I'm the best navigator you'll ever find.
Luffy looked at the hand then at her, raising an eyebrow before shaking it. Captain Monkey D. Luffy of the Marines.
Are you the one that sent the distress call? Nami shook her head. That would be the other villagers, I was only passing through. And by passing through you mean stealing from pirates, eh? Zoro eyed the map that was clearly in Nami's hand. Well, they're pirates anyway, right? It's not so bad if you're stealing from criminals? Nami tried, fidgeting under Zoro's stare. 2 wrongs don't make a right, Zoro commented, unmoving. Luffy stepped in between them. All right. We're only here for Buggy, nothing more. You can go if you wish. Hey wait, how about I help you guys? Nami suggested, suddenly very enthusiastic. Help us? Capture Buggy? Zoro sneered, eyeing the girl. Yeah, I can say that I mutinied on you guys and captured you as an offering to Buggy so that I can join his crew.
Then when they're drunk celebrating, I can release you guys to capture the intoxicated pirates.
Easy, right? Luffy and Zoro looked at each other before turning back to her. There's something else you're after, spill it. Zoro growled. Seeing that she can't fool the 2 Marines, she smiled sheepishly. Well, I would prefer if you 2 wouldn't mind me liberating some of their assets. Still after money, huh? Zoro smirked. Nami shrugged. I can't say I don't love having more money than I can spend in my pockets. Did you trick 3 pirates at sea before you got here? Luffy asked. Nami tilted her head and pretended to think. I may have, but what's it to you? So you can predict the weather? Luffy watched Nami carefully. Nami shook her hands quickly. Oh no.
Not really, at least. I can just tell the weather patterns more easily than others.
Alright then, deal, but if you try anything. Luffy held up a finger as a warning.
Zoro's eyes widened. Captain, you can't be serious, we don't even need her help.
We'll just plow right through them. True. But I'm hungry. And I don't want to fight while I'm hungry. Luffy groaned, rubbing his belly. Both Zoro and Nami stared at Luffy in disbelief.
The roof of the bar was in disarray, a few pirates were scurrying about the place and what seemed to be a celebration put on hold. There were barrels of alcohol and tables of food strewn around the place. The tension in the air was so tight it could almost be cut. Most of the pirates were gathered in front of the big tent that housed their captain, Buggy, now sitting on his throne and tapping his right hand on the armrest impatiently. In front of him stood the thief that his men had a ridiculous amount of trouble capturing, and tied up beside her were her boss and associate. Since I'm sick and tired of working for the Marines and not even getting a decent pay for all my work, I thought that becoming a pirate and joining you guys would be so much better. Nami flashed her best "I'm so totally telling the truth" smile.
So you really turned against them, eh?
Buggy looked at the two bound Marines with disdain. One was nodding off to sleep while the other just glared at everyone that dared to make eye contact. He stood up from his throne, advancing on the two Marines sitting cross-legged beside Nami, ignoring Zoro's glare.
Heh, so you two idiots got betrayed, eh? Jaya ha ha ha. What a bunch of fools. Buggy laughed heartily as the rest of his crew joined in. Hey wait. Buggy finally noticed Zoro's waist. 3 swords? You wouldn't happen to be pirate hunter Zoro, would you? Buggy glared.
Zoro smirked, shrugging. I quit being a bounty hunter some time ago, I'm a Marine now.
Buggy growled, men. Take his swords away. And bring more rope to bind him.
Zoro scowled at this, standing up suddenly, unfazed by the number of men around him. You touch my swords and I'll make sure none of you touches anything again.
Nami smacked him hard on the head, yelling, What the hell are you doing? Can't you see there's way more pirates than you? You don't stand a chance.
Zoro glared at the girl while Buggy laughed again. You truly are one of us now, girl. Zoro gritted his teeth. I don't care, I already suffered the embarrassment of losing my swords a few days ago and I'm not going to let it happen again.
Why you?
Nami began to raise her hand again.
Zoro, Luffy finally spoke up.
Everyone turned to regard the Marine captain that had been silent all this while.
He grinned at Zoro, do whatever you want.
Zoro grinned back, with pleasure, Captain. In a flash, the ropes that bound his upper body were severed and his swords were unsheathed.
Change of plans, Nami. We're taking them down now.
Zoro smirked.
So you lied to us.
Buggy glared pointedly at Nami, who was beginning to sweat. She started to mouth an excuse but felt a reassuring hand on her shoulder. She turned to see Luffy standing beside her, bindings already undone.
Relax, Nami, we got this. Luffy smiled reassuringly.
Hey Zoro.
Yes, Captain?
You handle these guys first, I'm going to take some of their food. Without waiting for a reply, he walked off towards the closest table piled with food.
Zoro only grinned at this as he glared down the pirates surrounding them, all with weapons drawn. Of course, Captain.
Without any warning, he lunged towards the closest pirate, already cutting him and sending him sprawling on the ground. In unison, the pirates shouted a battle cry and charged at Zoro, only to be mowed down in a flurry of blades. A few of them went after Nami, now knowing she had no intention of joining them in the first place. Nami muttered a curse under her breath as she assembled her staff that was hidden underneath her skirt, trying her best to fend off the furious pirates.
Captain, a swordsman rolled out beside Buggy on a unicycle.
He was wearing a checkered scarf and baggy pants with only a long overcoat to cover his torso.
I can handle these two by myself.
Kabeji, Buggy regarded the swordsman.
He nodded and jerked his head at Luffy, who was busy shoveling food into his mouth.
But get him first, he's getting on my nerves.
Kabeji charged towards Luffy, his 2 sabers poised to strike at his back.
When he is within striking distance, 3 swords flashed in front of him, parrying his attacks. Zoro stood in front of him, both their swords locked in position.
Would you mind not disturbing my captain while he's eating? Zoro grunted. Kabeji grinned. It's an honor to cross swords with you, Roronoa. I can't say the same to you, you circus freak.
Zoro grunted, pushing Kabeji away from him.
Leave him to me, boys. I want to fight him. Kabeji shouted, fully concentrating on Zoro now.
Zoro stuck both of his swords in the ground and tied his bandana around his head before picking his swords up again. Both swordsmen charged at each other, striking both of their swords at the same time. Before Zoro could push away, Kabeji pulled down his scarf and blew a gout of blame at him.
Acrobat technique, fire trick.
Zoro leaped backwards as he tried to avoid the flames, shielding his face with his left hand.
Kabeji took the opportunity and delivered a right kick to Zoro's abdomen, pushing him onto the floor.
Kabeji charged at Zoro again, his swords lunging towards him. Zoro grunted as he got up from the ground, parrying his two sword lunges away and delivering a satisfying headbutt to Kabeji's face, sending him off his unicycle.
You dirty bastard! Kabeji screamed. Says the guy with the circus tricks. Zoro smirked, charging once again at Kabeji.
Murder missed attack. Kabeji cried as he swung his sword on the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust.
Zoro stopped at the edge of the cloud, swords held ready.
Without warning, Kabeji appeared from within the cloud, swords held on his right and slashing towards Zoro.
Zoro blocked it with both his swords, planning to cut him with the sword in his mouth.
Kabeji let go of the sword in his left hand and threw a bunch of dirt that he had hit at Zoro's face.
You asshole!
Zoro winced in pain as he stepped back, trying to get the dirt out from his eyes. Kabeji did not lose the opportunity to stab his sword towards Zoro, who barely managed to deflect it at the last second. I'm tired of this. You call yourself a swordsman and yet you resort to these petty tricks.
Zoro fumed, finally regaining his full sight. I'll do anything it takes to win, fool. Kabeji grinned. Come to my face and say it, I dare you. Zoro grunted, settling into a stance.
Kabeji charged one more time at him, swords held by his side prepared to slash. Just as he was reaching his target, Zoro lashed out with all three swords.
Onigiri. 3 slashes marked itself on Kabeji as he passed by Zoro. Impossible. You're only Marines. Kabeji gasped before collapsing on the floor. That's enough, Roronoa Zoro.
A man shouted, causing said swordsman to turn to face him. A man with his hair styled to look like he had barriers on top of his head was standing beside Nami, who was now tied up and kneeling on the floor. A huge lion stood behind her, a paw on top of her head, not allowing her to rise.
Move another step and she gets it.
The man grinned victoriously.
Jaya ha ha ha. Well done, Moji. Hold that bitch there. Buggy laughed. Zoro was about to move before the lion pushed Nami's head even lower, growling at Zoro.
Seeing that he had control over the situation again, Buggy laughed as his man brought in a cannon. Since you guys had pissed me off so much, I'll give you guys the honor of death with my best weapon.
Men, load in the buggy ball. A black cannonball with their pirate Jolly Roger was loaded into the cannon. A pirate immediately lit the fuse and the cannon was pointed at the town. To demonstrate its power. Men, fire the buggy ball. Nami watched in horror. A huge flash of white light emanated from the cannon towards the town.
When the light finally dimmed, the buildings that once stood tall and proud were reduced to rubble within the cannon's aim.
Jaya ha ha ha. Be proud you made me use this on you, you filthy Marines.
Buggy laughed as they redirected the cannon to point at the stationary Marines.
So that's what you used to destroy the town earlier? Zoro glared at Buggy. Jaya ha ha ha. Of course. And now, I'm going to use it on you. Buggy laughed maniacally. Run, you idiots. Why are you risking your lives for me?
Nami cried, only for Moji to smack her across her face to shut her up.
Oi, oi. Captain, this doesn't look good. Zoro sweated. Rollwax Zwawo, Luffy waved his hand nonchalantly, talking even with his mouth still full of food. Jwust thwust mew.
Zoro looked at him, unconvinced. If you're so sure, Captain.
Fire the buggy ball. Buggy cried as the fuse was lit. No! Nami cried as the cannon was fired.
A blinding light flashed towards the two Marines, only to be abruptly dissipated. The smoke cleared to reveal a Straw Hat Marine chomping down on some food as he held onto the cannonball with his right hand. Everyone's eyes popped out and their jaws reached the ground.
Wahahat! Everyone screamed in unison.
Swallowing his food, Luffy let out a contented belch as he let the bomb drop on the floor, letting it smolder. That was some good food, he grinned.
Saru.
He appeared in front of Moji, his face impassive.
You dared to hit her.
The air was cackling as Luffy delivered a punch to Moji's face, sending him flying off the roof into the street below.
How dare you, you filthy marine! Richie! Buggy called out to the lion. Kill that thief.
But Richie stayed still. In fact, he stayed so still people wondered if he was still alive. His sweat was pouring down his face like a waterfall as Luffy advanced on him.
You will let her go. It wasn't a request, nor a demand.
Luffy was commanding him to do as he said. Richie slowly lifted his paw off Nami's head and stepped aside, all the while cowering in fear of this Straw Hat boy.
Luffy stuck his right index finger out, pointed it at Nami's bindings. Shurgan Renkyaku. Jabbing his finger forward, a small bullet of air pressure sliced cleanly through the rope, not touching Nami at all. Nami just stared incredulously at Luffy as her bindings fell free beside her.
I'll only say this once, Buggy the Clown, give up before you get hurt.
Fat chance.
I'll take you on myself, you damn Marine. Buggy cried, bringing out knives from under his cloak. Although rather uneasy about this Marine captain's sudden display of power, Buggy refused to bow down to him. I'll have to take him seriously from the start, Buggy decided.
Bara Bara Festival.
Buggy's body separated into many different parts and started flying around the place.
Nami and Zoro was shocked at this display, but Luffy just smirked. So you ate a devil fruit, huh? Indeed. I ate the Bara Bara fruit.
I have the ability to split my body into different sections.
I cannot be cut. Scared now, Marine? Buggy laughed.
Not at all, you look ridiculous, like your big nose.
Luffy grinned.
Every Buggy pirate that heard that immediately went into a panic mode and backed off as far away as they could from Luffy.
Eh? What's up with you guys?
Luffy looked at the pirates quizzically.
You? What did you say about my nose? Buggy's body was trembling. I said it was big? Luffy raised an eyebrow. No. He hates people talking about his nose.
Every Buggy pirate screamed in unison. I'll kill you for that, you confounded Marine.
Buggy's body began spinning wildly around Luffy like a miniature tornado.
Nami held onto Luffy's cloak, watching in fear as the tornado got smaller and smaller around them, closing in for the kill.
Relax, Nami, I'll protect you. The Marines always protect the innocent.
Luffy grinned, keeping his eyes on the tornado of body parts.
Surprise stab.
A hand holding a knife flew towards Luffy from behind his head, only to be backhanded away back into the tornado. It's not much of a surprise if you actually yell it out, Luffy grinned.
This time, another hand flew out without warning and went straight for Nami.
She screamed, but Luffy managed to kick that hand away as well.
Targeting bystanders now? That's not very nice, Buggy.
Luffy clucked his tongue at him.
Shut up. I'm a pirate. I don't play nice. Buggy yelled back.
At once, Buggy flung all of his airborne body parts at Luffy, aiming to distract him while the hands that held his knives moved in for the kill. With observation haki, Luffy noticed the trajectory of the knives were not headed for him. He grit his teeth in anger as he pulled Nami away from the knives and shielded her from the crashing body parts.
Enough. Your fight is with me. Stop dragging her into it. Luffy growled. Never. She stole my map and tried to trick me. I'm never forgiving her.
Buggy growled as he tried to stab her again. Hold your breath and close your eyes, Luffy whispered, gripping tighter on her.
Nami didn't hesitate and did as she was told. Zoro.
Luffy reappeared in front of Zoro with Nami, dodging through the knives and body parts. He deposited her beside him, Nami still slightly dazed from the sudden acceleration. Protect her, Luffy turned back to face the increasingly frustrated Buggy.
Of course, Captain.
Zoro grinned, gripping his swords. I won't forgive you for hurting the innocent, turn yourself in or I'll make you. Luffy glared hard at Buggy. Try me. Buggy floated a few feet away from Luffy.
Shurgan Rankyaku.
Luffy punched his finger forward and sent a bullet of compressed air at Buggy without warning, piercing through one of his hands.
Arg! You bastard!
Buggy screamed, clutching his hand.
Last warning, Luffy glared, the shadow of his hat covering his eyes. Never! Bara Bara Party. Every single body part began flinging itself towards Luffy. Luffy held his hat with one hand and appeared in front of Buggy's floating head.
Before Buggy could even blink, a fist materialized in between his eyes, sending his head crashing back into his tent. The other body parts immediately slumped onto the floor as Buggy lost consciousness. All the other pirates cowered in fear at the Marine captain, flinching as he pointed a finger at them. I want you guys to bag all the treasure you currently have and bring them here. Once you're done, I want all of you off the island within 10 seconds, anyone still here by then will be arrested or beaten up.
Probably both.
All of them scurried off to obey. Luffy grinned at the retreating pirates before turning to Zoro, his blades were already sheathed in his bandana tied to his arm.
Zoro! Help me tie Buggy up. We'll leave him for the transportation guys. Luffy pulled out his Den Mushi, dialing the number for HQ as Zoro found some rope and proceeded to gather up the body parts.
Headquarters, Captain Monkey D. Luffy reporting in from Orange Town.
Receiving loud and clear, Captain. What's the situation there?
Pirate Captain Buggy the Clown was found terrorizing the town, but I already dealt with him. Send in a transport team for pickup, over.
Aye, sir. Thanks for the good work. HQ out.
Luffy pocketed the Den Mushi just as the pirates returned with bags of gold before turning on their heels and ran back to their ship, carrying any passed-out crew members with them.
Luffy grinned at Nami, who was staring at the bags of gold uneasily.
Hey, I'll give you those if you agree to become my navigator.
What? Nami stared at him in disbelief.
I'm gathering my own marine crew to take on the New World criminals and we're sorely missing in the navigation department.
We can use someone like you.
Luffy smiled sheepishly.
Nami held her head down. I'm flattered, but I can't.
I still have some unfinished business I need to deal with at home.
Luffy frowned, noticing her depression. Does it have something to do with how you're clamoring so much after money? Nami hesitated, but nodded in the end.
Luffy just sighed before tossing 2 bags of gold to her, leaving one last bag behind.
Take these. Nami looked at Luffy in shock. Are you sure? You don't have to.
It's fine, just take it as an apology for getting you involved. I can already claim the 15 million bounty from Buggy, so I'm not in need of those.
Luffy nodded towards the bags. What about that one? Nami pointed at the last bag.
Luffy shrugged. The town needs to be repaired, this will act as their funds for it, I guess.
Nami nodded understandingly, still staring at the 2 bags.
Zoro reappeared out of the tent with a satisfied smirk. All done, Captain. I wrote a note to tell the guys not to untie the body parts too.
Luffy peeked in the tent to see Buggy's head tied to the center pole of the tent with his bundle of body parts below.
Shishishishi, that should keep him there until the boys come. We should head out soon. I don't want to have to answer the locals when they find out half their town got destroyed by these pirates.
Luffy laughed. Wait, Nami made a grab for Luffy, stopping him in his tracks. You see.
These 2 bags are too heavy for me to carry by myself, so if you 2 gentlemen can help me carry them, I wouldn't mind following you guys for a while.
Nami smiled sweetly. TCH, damn witches only in it for the gold, aren't you? Zoro remarked, turning away to walk back to their boats. Luffy grinned at her. Where's your hometown? Konomi Islands, she grinned back.
Well, perfect, that's one of our stops too.
We can escort you there. Maybe help you finish your business too so you can join us. Luffy laughed.
Nami paled a little at this but kept her smile. It's a deal then.
Luffy shook Nami's hands energetically, welcoming his temporary navigator. Chapter 5, Liar, Liar, your plan's on fire. Zoro stifled a yawn as he was appointed the rudderman again.
Both Nami and Luffy were sitting at the prow of the boat beside each other as Nami drilled in whatever she knew on navigation into him. He grinned as Luffy tried his hardest to learn everything that Nami was teaching him to avoid another beating from her.
She didn't really take kindly to Luffy's antics, unfortunately.
Zoro smirked as he recalled how she raged over the fact that Luffy didn't have a proper ship and crew despite being a marine captain. She got even more angry when he had not allowed her to continue using the larger boat she acquired from the Buggy pirates, as it had their Jolly Roger on the sails, and thus had to move the treasures she stole from them to their smaller boat. Now the already cramped boat became even more cramped as their bags of treasures had to be deposited in the middle of the boat, leaving barely enough room for three. It was a wonder the boat was still afloat. Zoro glanced at the last barrel of rations worriedly. Since they were in a hurry to leave before the locals came, they hadn't had the time to gather extra rations and had to make do with what was already on the pirates' boat at that time to restock, which was a rather pitiful amount even without considering how much Luffy eats. Once Luffy had revealed his rather pathetic navigation skills, Nami had brought upon herself to drill into him what she knew, seeing as how it was partly his job as the captain after all. That turned into an entertaining impromptu skit for Zoro as he watched his captain smacked repeatedly on the head for every glaring blunder he made, and Nami waving her hands in the air in exasperation at his cluelessness.
Really? What did they even teach you in your time in the Marines? Nami yelled, finally giving up on actually making him a proficient navigator.
How to fight. Luffy tried, his hand rubbing his head to ease the pain of multiple smacks Nami had inflicted upon him.
Is there nothing else?
Nami growled, clearly frustrated by how strong he is in a fight but apparently clueless in almost everything else.
Air. Well, everything else that's theoretical I had to teach myself, since no one would teach me that.
All of my trainers said I could rely on my crew for that and for me to only focus on fighting.
Luffy smiled sheepishly. So you actually learned the basics of navigation by yourself? I'm rather surprised. Zoro commented, clearly not expecting him to be the bookish type.
It was more of a passing hobby, really. They just had maps and charts lying around, and sometimes I would watch the marine navigators work from time to time.
Luffy confessed. How long have you been a marine? Nami asked, putting away her maps and charts.
About 4 years now, Luffy beamed proudly.
You got this strong in just 4 years?
Zoro spluttered.
He himself had trained his whole life to reach the level he is right now, and the Marines managed to churn out this monster within 4 years? I was trained by the best. Luffy grinned proudly, remembering his teachers.
That still does not explain how you stopped a freaking cannonball with your bare hands.
Nami yelled at him. Oh, that?
That's normal, I had to throw cannonballs with my air.
My teacher with our hands. He was way better at it than I am. Luffy waved nonchalantly. Your trainer made you practice throwing cannonballs with your bare hands? Both of them yelled at him. It was more of a sport, actually. We just competed who could throw faster and further. Luffy confessed, scratching his head in embarrassment. Who is the guy? Nami asked, eyes wide. Air. I'm not supposed to tell. Luffy turned his head and started whistling, sweat dripping down his face. Flashback. Luffy, remember this well.
Garp grabbed Luffy by his shoulders, forcing him to face him. It was the day that he was supposed to set off after 3 years of training, a few hours away from Fusha village. Both of them were in Garp's quarters, where they had shared the room on the voyage. I have many enemies out there, Luffy, and even though I don't doubt your strength to defend yourself, I want you to be safe. Do not, I repeat, do not tell anyone you meet that I am your grandfather, nor are you Dragon's son. Do you understand me? Luffy saw the seriousness in his grandfather's eyes, the usual jovialness and cheerfulness gone.
Luffy could only nod dumbly. If my enemies find out you're my grandson, they will try to hurt me by hurting you. So whatever happens, don't tell anyone outside of the Marines.
I know you're getting your own crew, but don't tell them either unless necessary.
Understood?
Yes, Grandpa.
Luffy nodded again.
Good. Garp's face returned back to his usual cheerfulness.
Now come on. Don't show such a scary face, you lousy brat. Your journey begins today.
It's time to see what my grandson can do.
Garp shouted proudly, contradicting his earlier statements. It must be someone famous, right? Zoro smirked, noticing Luffy's hesitation and his increasing nervousness.
Heir?
I don't know.
Luffy sweated more profusely and whistled louder. Nami was about to ask again when Zoro caught her eye and shook his head slowly. It's not something we need to know after all, besides, everyone has their secrets.
Zoro grinned. Luffy immediately let out the breath he was holding and relaxed immediately.
The two men did not notice Nami stroking her left shoulder carefully as Zoro said that. Anyway, we have a bigger problem right now. Zoro tapped on the barrel beside him with the hilt of his sword. We're critically low on supplies, and if we don't find somewhere to stop soon, we're gonna have a big problem.
That's not a problem, Nami smiled.
There's a place called Syrup Village about 2 hours sail away that we can resupply at. We should also see if we can get a better ship there as well.
All three were in agreement for the stop.
The three landed their small boat at one of the beaches of the island with Zoro grounding their boat on the beach. The beach was enclosed by 2 small cliffs with a path cut in between them. Nami was scrutinizing the map she held in her hand and pointed to the path in between the 2 cliffs. That path should lead us directly to the village.
I'm pretty sure there's dash. Who dares intrude on my island? A loud booming voice echoed from the forests on the cliffs.
All three of them turned towards the source of the voice to see no one there.
Who are you? Show yourself. Nami shouted towards the forest.
I am the great pirate, Captain Usopp. I have claimed this island as my own, so do not take another step into this island.
I have 8 million men at my disposal. Leave now at once.
The voice boomed again.
Captain Usopp? 8 million men? Luffy's eyes popped out.
He reached for his den mushi. I need to report this to HQ, the situation here is more serious than I thought.
Idiot. Nami smacked him on the head.
Of course he's lying.
Ah. She found out.
A man, presumably Usopp, stood up from the edge of the cliff without warning. He had a greenish-yellow bandana tied around black curly hair and a pair of goggles strapped over his head. A white sash was secured around his waist over his brown overalls and a light brown sling bag was slung on his left hip. His most noticeable feature was his exceptionally long and thin nose.
Huh, so it's just an idiot, huh? Zoro smirked at him.
Usopp noticeably gulped as he tried to compose himself. All right. I may have lied about the 8 million man, but I still have a huge number of followers. A few flags appeared in the forest and began waving around.
Wow. That's... Wait, there's only 3 guys, aren't there? Luffy raised an eyebrow. Ah.
He found out. 3 kids stood up from the bushes with flags in their hands and immediately took to their heels.
Hey! Don't abandon me!
The long-nosed man shouted after the kids. He cursed under his breath as they didn't even bother to look back. He drew out a slingshot from his bag and turned back to the 3 still standing at the beach. Even if I don't have that many followers, I'm still the great.
Wait. You guys are Marines?
Usopp gasped.
Took you long enough, Zoro rolled his eyes. So you're a pirate that took over this island, huh?
I guess I'll just have to arrest you. Luffy pulled up his sleeves.
Ah, wait. I lied about that. I'm not a pirate.
Usopp panicked, stretching his palms in front of him, trying to placate him.
Oh, really?
Okay then,
Luffy lowered his sleeves again. He's too trusting. Both Nami and Zoro sweat dropped. What are you Marines doing here? Usopp asked, scratching his head. We're in need of some supplies, don't suppose you know the way to the village? Nami raised an eyebrow. Oh, of course. This is my hometown. Tell you guys what, as an apology for just now, I'll even treat you guys to a meal. It's all on me, what do you say? The long-nosed man offered. Before Nami and Zoro could even blink, Luffy was already jumping around in joy. Yeah. I want meat. Lots of meat. The man introduced himself as Usopp of Syrup Village and had them seated at a table in one of the taverns within the village. While the other two tried to be as civil as possible, Luffy had went ahead to order the most food and proceeded to devour his food without hesitation. Usopp did not seem to mind, however. So what were you doing at the beach, Usopp? Luffy asked between chomping down on his food. It's nothing, really. Usopp scratched his head, seemingly embarrassed. There have been instances of pirates roaming around these parts, so I, lie to any newcomers that a pirate has already taken over the island to scare them off. Usopp smiled sheepishly. Well, you better work on that lying of yours, Zoro smirked at him before sipping his sake. Ah. Well, I've honestly never been that great of a liar myself. Usopp chuckled. I'm not really strong and neither is anyone else on this island. The only thing I'm actually good at is shooting at things with my slingshot. So I just saw lying as the way to protect my village from pirates. Heh. That's rather noble of you, I misjudged you, Nami remarked sincerely. Oh, it's fine, the only thing I can actually boast proudly of is my sharpshooting skills. Usopp sighed. Aren't you Usopp's kid? Luffy muttered offhandedly while his mouth was still full, spewing food on the table. Don't talk with your mouth full. Nami yelled at him, smacking him on the head again. Wait. You know my dad? Usopp gasped. Oh yeah, he's part of Shanks' crew, right? They came to my village a few years ago. He's a really funny guy. Luffy finally swallowed his food. So he's a really great pirate then? Usopp had a hopeful look in his eyes, gripping the table firmly. For sure. He was the best sharpshooter I ever saw. Even better than most of the sharpshooters I've seen in the Marines. Luffy grinned. So it's true. My dad really is a great pirate. Usopp was smiling uncontrollably. I've always wanted to be a great pirate like my dad. One day, I'll set out to sea too and follow in his footsteps. Ah. Usopp fell silent as soon as he remembered who the three people around him were. Ah, ha, I was just joking, I would never be. So is that your dream? Luffy's eyes were sparkling as he held on to Usopp's shoulders. Usopp didn't even know what to make of his reaction. To become a great pirate like your dad? That's so cool. Luffy beamed and the rest could swore they saw sparkles around him. To be honest, my dream is really to become a great warrior of the sea. The pirate thing is just something I took up after my dad, Usopp confessed, embarrassed. That's so cool. Luffy was shining even brighter now. Nami face-palmed at the sight while Zoro just continued to drown in his sake. By the way, Usopp, don't suppose you know if there's a place around here that we can get our hands on a ship, do you? Nami asked after Luffy finally calmed down. Oh, well. There is a ship in the village but it belongs to the owner of the mansion. Usopp scratched his chin. You mean the big house on top of the hill? Nami leaned forward, propping her head on her hand. Yep, it's just outside the village and owned by a young lady. Her parents passed away some time ago and left the mansion to her. Unfortunately, she has a rather weak body and has to stay in bed most of the time. Usopp nodded sagely. Oh, maybe we can ask her for it then. Luffy chuckled, already getting up. Usopp seemed a bit uneasy at this declaration but held his tongue as the whole group left the tavern together and headed towards the mansion. When they were about halfway up, Usopp rushed in front of them suddenly. Wait guys, I just remembered something. The lady isn't at home today. Luffy groaned. Oh well, that can't be helped, we'll just take a look at the ship then. No wait. Usopp stopped them again. She left on the ship to take a ride. Yeah, that's right. So you might as well come back tomorrow.
Both Nami and Zoro stared at Usopp incredulously, not understanding why he would lie to stop them from going to the mansion now.
Aw.
That's too bad then, I guess we'll stay at the village today guys. Luffy grabbed both Nami's and Zoro's hands, pulling them along with him back to the village.
But Luffy. Nami began. Wait, Captain. Zoro protested.
Luffy turned to both of them and gave them a look that told them he knew, instantly shutting down all protests before turning back again. Usopp had watched them leave before turning back and sprinting towards the mansion.
So why do you think he lied to us? Nami peeked out from the tree nearby, watching Usopp running towards the mansion. Something fishy's going on, what do we do, Captain? Zoro looked at Luffy, sitting among the branches of the tree.
I say we go ahead to the mansion and see what we can find. Luffy hopped down from the tree, his eyes colder than normal.
I have a feeling there's more to this lady's mansion than he let up.
Well, the whole place is walled up, how do we get in?
Nami asked, staring at the imposing steel gate that barred the way into the mansion.
The three were standing in front of the mansion, no one else was in sight. We knock of course, Luffy deadpanned, as though it was the most obvious thing to do, reaching out to a knocker by the side of the gate. Nami grabbed on to Luffy's wrist before he could reach it.
Wait, Luffy. What if there's something going on inside the mansion, like pirates taking over it?
I don't think we should just go in like this. We'll just cut them up, Zoro grinned, his right hand already on his swords. Relax Nami, we can handle anything that comes, Luffy smiled reassuringly. Nami just sighed at the two before letting go of his hand, allowing him to knock loudly on the gate. The metallic sound echoed loudly through the mansion grounds. They only had to wait for a few moments before the door of the main building was flung open. A tall, thin man wearing a butler uniform with round-framed glasses approached the gate with light steps, constantly adjusting his glasses with his palm. I am Klahadore, the caretaker for this mansion.
May I ask what you Marines want with us?
He asked coolly, his eyes scrutinizing over the three visitors. I am Captain Monkey D. Luffy. I want to have a talk with this mansion's owner.
Lead us to her. Luffy seemed to be glaring at the caretaker.
Denied, my lady is resting right now, she has no time for people like you. Please leave this place at once.
Klahadore adjusted his glasses again, making no move to open the gate.
I am not asking, Mr. Caretaker, I have the authority to demand a meeting with your mistress right now and I am demanding you lead us to her. Luffy's voice quivered, not from fear but barely controlled anger. Both Nami and Zoro looked at each other and wondered why their captain was getting so worked up over the caretaker's refusal to let them meet his mistress. Do not lie to me, Marine, you're a mere captain, you shouldn't hold such authority. Klahadore glared back at Luffy, his hands held behind his back. Luffy pulled out the paper his grandfather had given him, opening it up for the caretaker to see. I am under orders to patrol around this area with the authority to deal with any criminal activity as I see fit within this region. I am currently suspecting that the inhabitants of this mansion are involved in criminal activities and I will take appropriate action unless you lead me to your mistress. Luffy's glare gave Klahadore no room for protests and the caretaker could only grit his teeth as he unlocked the gate for the three to enter. He had a scowl on his face as he led them past the main doorway and down a short corridor to his lady's room.
The sounds of talking and laughter could be heard from inside.
Klahadore's scowl became deeper as he opened the door without knocking to confront the intruder that was talking to his mistress from outside the window.
What's going on here?
He demanded as he swung open the door. Usopp froze as though he was a deer caught in the headlights while a young girl who was sitting on the bed turned to face the caretaker.
Ah. Klahadore,
Usopp is just telling me stories about his adventures, the lady tried to placate the caretaker.
More like lies, no doubt.
Mistress Kaya, I already told you it's not good for you to associate yourself with such uncouth people. Especially a son of a pirate scum like this man here.
Klahadore scoffed.
Usopp gritted his teeth but held his tongue, noticing the three people behind him.
Klahadore, Who are these people? Kaya pointed at the three behind him, finally noticing them. Klahadore adjusted his spectacles again with his palm, stepping aside to allow them into the room. They're Marines on patrol. They said they wanted to have a word with you. Oh, what can I help you with? Kaya lifted an eyebrow.
Actually, Luffy stepped towards her bed, glancing at Usopp who now hung his head low, unable to meet his eye.
We're friends of Usopp here. He told us that you had a ship and were looking to ask if we could somehow obtain it from you. Friends of Usopp? Kaya looked incredulously at Luffy, switching to look at Usopp. Well, he knows my father. Usopp scratched his head, unsure of what Luffy wanted. Yep, and his father is the crew member of a famous Yonko. He's definitely not a pirate scum. Luffy grinned as Usopp glanced wide-eyed at Luffy. Even so, pirates are still pirates.
That still doesn't change the fact that he's still a pirate's bastard son, Klahadore remarked coldly, not even acknowledging Usopp.
Klahadore. That's enough. Apologize to Usopp.
Kaya glared at her caretaker, only to receive a sigh from him. Mistress Kaya, scum like him is not worth apologizing for, especially when all pirates care about are pillaging and ruining lives.
After your parents passed away, I promised to them that I would do my best to keep you safe. This pirate here could be plotting to get rid of you in order to get your riches. I define. Klahadore. That's enough out of you. Kaya shouted suddenly, cutting him off. Usopp was barely restraining his anger as he clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white.
Before the situation could escalate further, Luffy coughed to break the tension. I'm sorry, Miss Kaya, we'll come back some other time if that's convenient for you, we have overstayed our welcome.
Usopp, come with us, I have more things to tell you about your father.
Usopp relaxed his fist before sparing one last glare at Klahadore, stomping away from the mansion grounds.
We'll take our leave,
Nami bowed to Kaya before leaving the room with the two guys.
The trio reunited with Usopp outside of the mansion grounds and walked in silence away from the mansion.
They stopped under the tree that they were hiding in before when Usopp tried to discourage them from going to the mansion.
I'm sorry about lying to you guys. Usopp bowed his head to them in an apology.
It's alright, no harm done, Zoro waved his hand.
But why would you lie about that? Nami remarked, tilting her head. I was afraid you might cause harm to her.
She's sick enough as it is and her damn caretaker has done nothing but suffocate her in that mansion of hers.
Usopp gritted his teeth in frustration. She wants to get out of the house but that caretaker of hers is always in the way. I'm not even sure if he actually has her best interests at heart anymore. And even though he's feeding her medicine, her health doesn't seem to get any better. If I had to guess, he might even be the one poisoning her.
Luffy stiffened as he heard the last part.
Usopp, do you care about her? The lady of the mansion?
Luffy glanced at Usopp, who stared back at him, unsure of the question.
Sure, she's a friend. Why? I have no proof right now, but she might be in danger. Luffy clenched his fist. Usopp and Nami gasped while Zoro lifted an eyebrow. How can you be sure, Captain? That caretaker looked like one of the pirates that was notorious around the time I joined the Marines. Luffy scratched his head.
Give me a moment. Luffy pulled out his Den Mushi from his cloak and dialed the number for HQ.
Captain Monkey D, Luffy reporting. Headquarters, give me whatever information you have on a certain Captain Kuro.
Understood. A moment, Captain. The ruffling of papers could be heard over the line. Captain Kuro of the Black Cat Pirates, also known as Kuro of 100 Plans, he was apprehended and executed 3 years ago with a bounty of 16 million berries.
His crew still remains at large even after his execution. I want a description of how he looks like.
His more notable features would be his round glasses and sleek black hair. He apparently has a habit of adjusting his glasses with the palm of his hand as well.
Sounds like Klahadore to me, Luffy nodded, looking at the three of them behind him, who returned his gaze with shock. Headquarters, I'm reporting that Captain Kuro is still alive and at large at Syrup Village. We know not of his plans at this time, but it is highly likely he is plotting something. Send a team over as soon as possible.
Roger that, Captain.
A team will be there tomorrow morning.
Oh.
Captain. I have a report from the team that went to retrieve Buggy.
What is it?
They let him escape.
Luffy gripped the tree beside him and tore out a chunk of it with his hands. The air cackled around him as his haki rolled out in waves.
How?
His voice was deceptively calm.
They did not follow the instructions on the note. It seems
they thought he was dead, with all those severed body parts.
HQ still agreed on the half bounty though. It was obvious the Marine on the other end could already feel his fury. Captain Luffy? Is this the same team that went after Alvida?
Sir. Tell them that they are to report back to Marineford to Vice Admiral Garp with details on their failure.
Yes, sir.
And help me relay a message to Vice Admiral Garp. Tell him I am sending him a couple of Marines that need some disciplining.
Understood? Loud and clear, sir. Good, is there anything else? Not at all, sir. Captain Luffy out.
Luffy deposited the Den Mushi back within his cloak before facing the three wide-eyed people.
What?
Luffy asked, grinning, as though the anger he exuded before was merely a mirage.
Were you always like this?
Zoro asked, keeping his eyes fixed on him.
Maybe? I don't know, shishishishi. Luffy laughed. Well, putting that aside, we have another problem on our hands.
Nami stated, crossing her arms.
That damn Plahador. So he's a pirate himself all the while and yet still insults my father. That hypocrite will get what's coming for him. I will take him on myself. Usopp clenched his fists.
Usopp, wait, we can't act rashly now, we still don't know what he's planning.
He's not called Kuro of 100 plans for nothing.
If we act without knowing his goals, we might fall for his traps.
Nami tried to calm him down. Indeed, we need to know what he's planning first.
We should wait for backup to arrive too if we're planning on apprehending him, or else he might just use the mistress as a hostage.
Zoro nodded. The problem remains in how do we expose his plans?
Usopp scratched his head.
How about we follow him? Luffy pointed at a departing Kuro.
He didn't seem to spot the four under the tree as he walked towards the shoreline opposite them. The four of them crept after Kuro as he came to a beach that was identical to the northern one that the Straw Hats had landed their boat at. A weird man that wore heart-shaped sunglasses with a blue trench coat topped with a large blue hat appeared from behind some rocks, walking towards the caretaker.
The four of them lay prone on the cliff overlooking the two on the beach. Is everything prepared, Django? Kuro questioned the man, his demeanor entirely different from his time in the mansion. Of course, Captain Kuro, everything is in place and ready for your signal. The men have been waiting for you all this time. Django replied, smirking. Good, I don't want to waste any more time. This has to be done tomorrow.
Of course. But who would have thought that Captain Kuro would fake his own death and worm himself into a rich family's life all just to lay claim on their riches?
Django chuckled. Enough of that, Django. I need you to know that there are a group of Marines in the town right now. I want the crew to attack the village to distract them while you and I head into the mansion and kill the girl. I will need you to hypnotize her to write a will that says she will give all of her fortunes to me. Understand? Ovyahaya here. You are such an evil man, Captain Kuro. You've been with that girl for the past 3 years. Don't you have any feelings for the poor girl?
Kuro smirked as he adjusted his glasses with his palm. Not at all, the 3 years I spent with her were rather stifling to be honest. That's why I poisoned her food to make sure she stays in bed as much as possible.
That bastard. I knew it. Usopp was gritted his teeth.
Alright then, we'll attack from the northern shore tomorrow at dawn, be ready, Django.
With that, both men parted ways and Kuro walked back to the mansion.
The four of them remained unmoving as he moved past them. Only when he was out of sight did they let out the breath they were holding.
I need to warn the villagers. I have to evacuate them out of here. I need to get Kaya out of the mansion too. Calm down, Usopp. We have this under control. Nami smacked him on the head.
We know his plans now, so all we have to do is come up with our own plan to counter his.
Geez, there's no need to overreact. Alright, let's see what we know now. Zoro sat down on the ground. Kuro's crew will be coming from the northern shore to attack the village in an attempt to distract us.
While everyone is distracted in the attack, he and that weird Django guy will head to the mansion to get rid of the mistress.
Am I right so far? Everyone nodded before Nami gasped suddenly, "Shush. Our boat is there too.
All the treasures are there."
All the guys' sweat dropped. Even now all you care about is money? Zoro shook his head. Shut up.
All of those are worth more than 10 million berries.
I can't let those damn pirates have them.
Without waiting for the others, she sprinted off back to the boat to hide her treasures.
Nami, wait. We can and she's gone. Zoro deadpanned. No matter, let's form a plan first. Luffy sat down beside Zoro.
Usopp, I need you to go and warn the villagers later and tell them to escape to this shore in the morning before dawn. Tell them to stay in their homes at night in case it rouses Kuro's suspicion. I'll get the marine back up to land at this side of the shore and move towards the village to defend it. I want you, Zoro and Nami, to be there to make sure all the villagers escape safely before the pirates reach there.
No. I need to make sure Kaya is safe. Usopp immediately protested. Luffy nodded without complaining. Alright, just Zoro and Nami then. Usopp will follow me to the mansion to stop the assassination. If possible, I want you to get Kaya and any other people out of the mansion as soon as we reach there. I will deal with Kuro myself. Are we agreed on this? Both Usopp and Zoro nodded.
I never thought that you would be much of a strategist, Zoro grinned.
Well, we did have war simulations in Marine officer training. Luffy scratched his head in embarrassment.
If there's no objections, both of you move out. I'll be staying here to guide the marine reinforcements.
Zoro, go get Nami and tell her the plan. Once you're all done, stay in the village and stay low. Don't tip Kuro off that we know of his plans.
Aye, Captain, let's go, Long Nose.
Don't call me Long Nose.
Both Zoro and Usopp ran towards the village. Luffy fished out his den mushi and placed it in front of him, awaiting the call of his reinforcements. After a few hours of waiting, the den mushi rang and Luffy moved to pick it up.
This is Captain Hina reporting, responding to a call for reinforcements at Syrup Village? Luffy grinned as he heard the name. Hina. So you're coming, eh? Oh, is that Luffy? Hina should have known this was your number. Did you request for reinforcements? I have Pirate Captain Kuro hiding in the village. I need men to ensure the safety of the villagers while I go beat him up. Hina understands, reinforcements will arrive early tomorrow.
Understood, I'll need your men in place before dawn. His crew will be attacking the village then. I need all of the villagers safely evacuated.
They will be safe, Hina will make sure of that. And I need you to land your ship on the south beach, that will be the evacuation point. Luffy could almost see Hina grinning wickedly. Hina sees you remembered your training with Vice Admiral Garp well, he will be proud. Shishishishi, this much is needed if I want to be an admiral. Understood, Hina will make sure it all goes smoothly, Hina out. Luffy disconnected the line, now content that everything would work out smoothly.
He extended his observation haki to encompass the island and listen to what was happening. Nami was busy stowing away their boat by a pile of rocks beside the beach in an attempt to hide her treasures. Zoro was trying his hardest to calm an angry mob of villagers that were chasing Usopp and calling him a liar while said person hid behind Zoro.
Kuro himself was inside the mansion, slipping into his role rather easily, doing his best to care for his mistress. Luffy grinned, when morning comes Kuro, I'll make sure no plan of yours can get you out of the pain I'm going to give you for the mess you made for this village. That wraps up this part of What If Luffy Became a Marine. New episodes drop every 4 days, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with fellow fans.
Don't forget to check the description for the fanfic title and author. Your support means a lot to them. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.